Welcome to the Mind and Magic Mystery School, where we demystify magic and the occult. Today we're going to talk about what you could do when you've been the target of thieves. So let's get into it. Alright, so every now and then I'm asked by people what they can do when they've had something stolen from them, or to get somebody to pay them back money that they owe them. And it's usually something of some significant value or a large amount of money that people are inquiring about. Now, really the best thing that you could do magically is prevent it from happening in the first place. You really need to be doing some sort of protection magic when it comes to your home and your property. And I have a program on protection and defense, and there's also an area of effect spell in the 7 Planetary Powers program. But that's not going to help somebody right away who's already been ripped off. So that's mostly for everybody else. Just prevent it from happening in the first place. Now, once you've already been ripped off and had something stolen from you, or somebody owes you a bunch of money that they're not paying back, the most effective thing that you can do is influence magic and get inside their head and convince them to pay you back or bring the item back. And those I've taught this to have had great success, and they're often amazed at the effectiveness of magical influence. And I go over how to do this in Words of Power, but the gist of it is you need to do a ritual where you pretend that you're the other person and then convince yourself to bring the item or money back. I say you need to get in their head, but the flip side of that is they need to get in your head as well, in order to be able to convince them to do the right thing. And this is especially true of the thieves you don't even know, when you've just been a random target. So that would be my number one pick. It tends to be the most effective in having your property or money returned. But there's no need to stop there. As I've mentioned many times, I like to stack my magic, so you combine your magical influence with creating a servitor to help retrieve your property or money. It's one of the main reasons that I create servitors, to protect my property and to go after those who would steal from me. There's a lot of thieves out there, especially when you're working in digital space. Not all property is tangible. So, for example, if someone made and distributed illegal copies of my programs, or they themselves downloaded it illegally, that would trigger and activate my servitors, who would then go after them until they pay what they owe. And I give fair warning of this in the license included with every Mind and Magic program, but I still have people coming back to me wanting to pay me off to get my servitors to leave them alone. And it's always accompanied by some story of how they made a copy for their sibling or something. No one ever tells me I just flat out stole from you, and frankly I don't care as long as they make it right. They can return the money, no questions asked. Now, the servitors don't harm anyone physically, but they will ruin your day. The servitors may take it out on their property, and they're relentless. They won't quit until the balance has been paid. So I try to dissuade people from even stealing from me by having them risk losing even more than what they've taken from me. And this has worked fantastically for other people who have created servitors for this purpose. And yes, I do have a program for that as well. But when you've already had something stolen from you, creating a servitor that's going to create mishaps throughout their day isn't necessarily going to make them think that they need to return what they've stolen. In my case, it may, because I warn people up front in my license. But the thieves who targeted you may not even know that you practice magic. And if they did, they're really stupid thieves. That's why it's imperative to combine it with the influence magic, to get them thinking about returning it to you as all hell's breaking loose around them. They may attribute it to karma or some kind of divine retribution. And that's perfectly fine. That may get them moving even quicker. Now, this is typically enough to see results in a short period of time. But if you need a little more, you can always call upon the 69th angel of the Shem HaMephorash, Rokel, which means God seeing everything. This particular angel finds stolen objects and discovers the person responsible. And if you really want to go all out, you could always conjure the 72nd Goetic demon, who returns items and punishes thieves. Now, personally, I won't do a goetic operation unless I absolutely have to, as I could typically get the same desired result without having to do all of that. Performing a goetic operation is no small undertaking. There is a decent amount of planning and prep work to be done, and you're relying upon entities that aren't always agreeable. As with most other things, I just find it easier to handle it myself. However, it always is an option if you need it. It really just depends on how badly you want something back and how much you're willing to do to get it back. Now, there's also an old hoodoo spell that you can do if you know the person who stole from you or owes you money. And that is to take the name of the person, write it down on paper. I always either use parchment paper or a piece of a brown paper bag for any magical purposes. And this is something I can go into more at a later time. But you write the name of the person on the paper and then throw it in boiling salt water and let it boil until the water has all evaporated. And this should compel the person to return what they have taken or what they owe. Now, I haven't tried this one personally, but others have said good things about it. So it may be worth trying out. There's really all kinds of low magic spells that you can use against thieves if you know where to look. They're really not that hard to find. But from my experience, nothing really beats influence magic and creating servitors. And all the programs I mentioned can be found at mindandmagic.com, so drop by and check them out when you can. I want to thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Take care.